Hi, welcome to Theater Games on Pop Culture Co-op. Our content is for all to enjoy, but membership to the co-op is for women and gender expansive individuals to talk about pop culture, learn new skills, grow, and take risks as a team. We'd love to hear from you in the chat, but please be kind. For those uninitiated, Theater Games is part interview, part game show, where we talk and play games that your guest has never played in scene study class. Our guests are all creatives with a love of theater, and that's just about where all the similarities end, because this is a space to highlight that there is no singular prescribed path to working in the arts, especially for women and non binary folks. Our guest tonight is the reason Pop Culture Co op exists at all. If you watch our shows, Big Time or Bra FI, formerly known as Let's Talk Pop, you've seen our guest. You may have also seen her in the Gotham Roller Derby League and their online presence. Please welcome tonight's guest, my friend, Dara Feynman.
Hello.
Hello! How are you doing, Dara?
I'm good. This is fun. I'm nervous.
Oh my god, don't be. This is a space where we have canceled Shakespeare and made up pop punk musicals. This is not a
Right.
place to be nervous.
I haven't done theater stuff in so long, so I'm jazzed.
Yeah, I let's get the ball rolling with the questions I ask every guest. How did theater first come into your life?
I'm from a small town, so community theater is just a thing everybody does. But my godfather, when I was six, it's there's not always do you have the aha moment, but I really did, was babysitting my brother and I while my parents went to a party, and he made us watch Gypsy. And he did my makeup. It was a Mardi Gras party, so he did my Mardi Gras makeup while we watched Gypsy, and I was smitten. And when you're a kid, it's hard to know, am I smitten with this person who is this cool older kid? He wasn't a kid, but he was in his early 20s, and I was six.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if he was in it. Yeah, he must have been. I just thought he was, or eight or whatever, but I just thought he was the coolest person in the whole wide world. And I loved Gypsy. And ever since then, I just got really into doing all the local plays, and I was in every play growing up. And I always sang because my dad was a singer. And my aunt was on Broadway. So that part of my life has always been there. But the minute where I was like, this is a thing I want to do, was watching Gypsy when I was six, getting my makeup painted on.
Did you see yourself as more of a baby June or a baby Louise?
Oh, when I was a baby Louise, even then, the dream was to be Gypsy. It was not to be baby June, but in reality, I was a very precocious kid who could sing belt. So
Mm-hmm.
I probably was more of a baby June in reality, but I had brown hair and I was very skinny as a kid. And I definitely exuded in my head Louise energy. And still, I have a dream of that role. I still sometimes do the daydream where I'm like, oh, that'd be so fun.
Actually, one of our guests who came on, Abby Rose Morris, talked
Hmm.
about how her dream production of Gypsy would involve a plus size Louise and a plus size Rose, and
Hmm.
kind of Rose acting out a lot of her own insecurities onto Louise in that arena. And I have not stopped thinking about it.
I saw that episode and it makes so much sense. I also think it's very funny how Gypsy has a through line for all of our theater
Oh,
experience.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that was an early dream role for me because partially because of weight and partially because I was not diagnosed with my mental illnesses yet, but I was like, "Oh, Mama Rose and I have something I see something in that character that I feel like I could do or that I could touch."
Now it's fun because I love the idea of being a little sexy.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And
hi
also
femme.
my Ethel Merman impression, which is definitely stolen from my father, is
Wait, did you do an Ethel Merman as a kid? Was that a thing you
oh
did as a
yeah,
child?
I was like a little kid doing Ethel Merman.
I did too.
Of
When I
course
was
you
4, I
did.
used to do an Ethel. Can you do it now?
Oh my God. I'm like, it's like the "Y'all be so well" with the "You'll be great." It's so fun.
That's really good. I didn't do Gypsy in my 5-year-old party trick, Ethel. I used to do, there's no business like show business. Yeah, like
This is always such a classic.
iconic.
Iconic.
I never knew that
Iconic.
we had this in common. That explains so
Every
much.
theater person had an FO at 8 years old. I used to like,
Hmm.
I have a hidden dream and it's still there. It's not I don't hide it. That I still have this stupid thing in my head that I want to be on SNL. Now,
Yeah.
it is a dream I have done zero things towards. It's not like I take improv classes, I don't do stand-up comedy, but I'm always like, oh yeah, it'll be great when I audition for SNL and I can pull out Ethel Merman and Eartha Kitt.
Wait,
Very
can I hear
useful.
the Eartha Kitt?
Oh God. It's all singing stuff because I don't know
Yeah.
how to do impressions talking. So
I
it's like
do
the
predominantly singing impressions too.
yeah, so my Eartha Kitt that I used to do as a kid was the everyone gets into a dual scene. Because she did monotonous. Like if they don't get the chance to change the scene.
Oh
I
my
used
God,
to
that's
I
so
listened to
funny.
that stupid Broadway Divas CD, which is exactly where I learned that impression
Yep.
since I was 10 on repeat still.
Yeah. I think a lot of people who grow up singing, especially, were constantly trying to reverse manufacture voices. So we're constantly obsessively listening and impersonating to figure out what we do with our own instrument.
It's really interesting.
Because
I
I
love that.
grew up impersonating people all the time too. And a lot of people who come on the show have a similar thing.
Yeah,
It's super
it's fun.
cool. Um, so I love this question because I predominantly don't have musical theater actors on this show for a reason. How has your love of theater impacted the life you live now?
Yeah, so I'm not a musical theater actor, even though I think if you were coming in now, you might think that. But just really great at those two impressions. But I had to have a little gin because I knew that that was going to come up. I think that my love of theater absolutely impacts everything because my mom always used to do this thing because I'm actually, and I know this always shocks people, is like I'm actually pretty shy. And I tend to do this thing that my mom does where she's like put on a part. So like if I have alter egos. So you mentioned earlier that I play roller derby, which came from my love of being performing, but it's an alter ego. You have a different name. And so like I'm hammy whenever I need to be on, right? Even in work, I work in advertising, right? Because that is a great way to pay the bills if you have a theater background or a film degree. And like I have to give presentations and be in meetings and be on and be friendly and be able to handle all these different personality types. And it's okay, I'm going to be hammy for this meeting. Like, I'm going to have to try this acting thing out. Or even just the love of theater is something that, like, is easy to use because I grew up around different personalities and different, theater people are, um, can tend to be especially like the background people like directors and stage managers can be a very specific personality and they can sometimes be tough to work with, but you can see their heart. They work so passionately, so it's learning how like being able to take that passion and make it work as opposed to just being like offended or hurt when someone is mad. Like I think
Hmm.
that's a weird skill. I also just think that like loving pop culture, what is it? It's like science is important for the like body, but for the body of the world, but like art is important for the soul of the world or mankind or whatever we say. Like I think that there's something really beautiful and important about having outlets, and not all of the world can play football as an outlet. Like sometimes we have to dance and sing and be who we are. And even like all the religions go back to being dancers and dancing. Like if you look at every old school religion, they usually come from some sort of dance as a way to like, or like the oral storytelling as like a way to pass on tradition and
A ritual.
ritual and ways to connect to each other. And I think that, theater is absolutely a modern form of that.
That's really beautiful. And when I do the pop culture co-op thing you have asked me to do, which is gathering sound bites, that will be one of them. Uh,
Just give everybody jobs.
I mean, that's also, I think, a very theater person thing that you do. If you don't mind me answering this question for you,
Go
it's like
go for it.
you came from being around artistic people who create the things they haven't found yet. And that's what you've done with Pop Culture Co op.
Well, thank you.
You're
Like,
welcome.
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Does make sense. That like idea of creating a thing. Like it's just if you're not seeing it, you just have to make it.
absolutely. I think a lot of the professional theater industry has been learning that this past year. And especially now that they're like, oh, our labor union doesn't quite act like a labor union. And maybe we don't need to look at Broadway as the end all be all. And like in some ways, I have some gratitude for not going down a conventional arts path with Broadway as the focus
Yeah.
because we're having this moment of reckoning. And I think it's cool that we're kind of doing this kind of punk rock DIY online space.
Well, I always when I went I did go yeah, like when I went to film school, one of the things that I really enjoyed was the timing that I went was like 2007 to 2010 and 11. And that was right at the beginning of prosumer cameras,
Mm-hmm.
of YouTube and phone cameras, and this idea that like film was too expensive. It was too expensive to make movies before. And now it's something that people in their hands can just do.
Yep.
And like now that's happening with theater where like theater's expensive. It's expensive to put on a play. It's expensive to pay actors, but you can also just do stuff and you don't have to like not to be the most like pretentious that I could be, but like I've seen the Duplass brothers speak a lot, and they're indie filmmakers who have made it slightly big now
Yeah.
and are in a bunch of stuff. But like they started as just indie filmmakers, and if you ever see them talk, the first thing when whatever the LA person, I'm from LA, I can make fun of LA people.
Yes.
Whenever that LA person's like, as a filmmaker myself, what would you tell us is like the best advice?
Or watching theater.
Ooh. um, I mean, I worked in talent management for theater for a while, which has been an interesting reckoning in the last few months. Hearing about people who didn't quit that because they got super abused, because I quit that because I was super abused. Um, and I think one of the things I learned is that you have to speak up for yourself, and that, like, just this sounds really like really cynical, and I'm sorry, but like, I learned how to take rejection really well.
Yeah.
And I learned that just because you want stuff doesn't mean you get it. And I think that like that's maybe a lesson a lot of people need to learn sometimes. And also some people need to learn the opposite way. But like, you know, there's 1.5 million actors and talent, there's a lot of talent, and it doesn't matter how talented you are. Like
Right.
you could be the most talented singer in the world and like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You can try out for every part in the world and not get one, or you could get all of them, or you could get one good one and then never get another one. Like the the lightning strike is so rare that if you don't learn how to take rejection and not take it personally, take feedback. Take that for real. But like just, you never know what somebody's looking for.
Yeah. And I think also what a lot of the theater community is learning a little bit late is that theatrical casting is not about love or family or friendship or even art. It's about filling out a commercial product.
Yeah. It's all money. And I think that idea of like learning how to understand that like everything is selling yourself. I have a huge thing I say lately, which is like there's no such thing as selling out in 2021 because we
Mm-mm.
live in a capitalist society. There's no ethical consumption in a
Under
capitalist society,
capitalism.
but
Mm-mm.
also like everybody is selling everything, including themselves. So if you're an
Yeah.
actor who hasn't learned how to commodify yourself, I mean, I learned this a lot in talent management, then like
Yeah.
you're
And
not going to
some,
get and
yeah.
like you have to learn how to play the game. Auditioning is part of the job, which people don't realize. Like it's not just about an audition and a callback, it's about learning who the people are and getting to know them and having them get to know your face. They're seeing a
Mm-hmm.
zillion people. You've seen those open calls outside of Pearl. Like 600 people are just standing there in the cold and like none of them are equity. And I mean,
Yep.
I did this stupid Hairspray audition just as a
I
joke.
did
And of
too.
course you did. We all did. Every single fat
Everybody
person
did.
or like mid-sized person for 3 states in the tri-state area or even more. The person next to me in line flew up from Texas.
Yeah, I saw people that flew out from like Illinois.
Yeah, waited in that line for their 10 seconds in front of a person, which honestly was more time than I expected. Like the
Yeah.
fact that there wasn't 6 people in a room with me was a surprise.
Yeah, I had one person in my room at Telsey.
Yeah, I meant just like the fact that it wasn't like me and 6 other girls auditioning at
Oh
the same
yeah,
time.
where they didn't just
'Cause,
go
I mean,
go
I
go
tried
go.
out for American Idol once too because as a joke,
Yeah.
but
Glee Project did the same thing. They
yeah.
brought like 8 of us into a room and went go go go.
And
And
that's what
then
I expected it to be, and that's not what this was. Like they actually gave every
yeah.
one of those people like a few second, like 16 bars for real.
Yeah, they let me go to the piano and like
It-
play my bell tone.
I was shocked. So,
Yeah.
like I was definitely too old. By that point, it was only like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it
Like
was.
I
I
could
mean,
play
I was older
16.
than the
I'm
girl they
like heavily
cast too.
graying.
I had an undercut, and my whole angle was like, I'm gonna go in and remind the table that it is 60s pop rock, but it is a pop rock musical for its time. And Tracy was an activist, and I was like, I look like what an activist would look like right now, and that was my whole game in my
And also,
head.
it's based on John Waters. Like, are you kidding?
Yeah,
Like you could be whatever.
yeah,
I should have leaned into that and like went dressed as Divine or some shit. Just like
yeah.
really did something crazy, but
Yeah, I'm surprised that speaking of auditioning for reality TV, something this show is not about, but I will always talk about, is like I was surprised with the Tracy call. They were using having an unknown Tracy as a marketing ploy. I was so surprised they didn't make a full like reality TV style package
it was a pretty
of
big
it.
miss, actually, that
Yeah.
they didn't do that.
Yeah, right? I was
It,
prepared for cameras.
well, but we know why.
You know why. Yeah.
We know why.
All right, speaking of we know why, what's the most useless thing that you still remember because of your experiences in theater?
Oh, this is such a good question. I mean, the lyrics to so many songs.
Yep.
Um, how to tap dance. It's good at a party.
This is good
Uh,
at a party.
no, I mean, I don't even, oh gosh. See, I'm such a person who thinks that everything is useful in some way at some point that like it's such a hard question because I feel like you learn from every stupid thing and also you learn from like, oh, it's a great party trick. Like,
That's true. That's a good way of looking at it.
so I just tend not to like even, I
I
think maybe
mean, yeah.
the useless thing, and it's not useless in its own way, is the thing we've been talking about a little bit with the weight stuff, where it's like, it's a shitty thing to learn
Yeah.
at a young age. And like, I always looked too old.
Which is so
Like I,
funny to me because you look so young. Like looking
thank
at you now.
but that was a joke that we always talked about when I was growing up, is that I always like I honestly could still use my 12 my headshot from when I was 12.
Hmm.
Like I look the same. I mean,
Yeah.
different hair, and I like know how to do my makeup now. Like I have eyebrows, which like,
Yes. Oh, I
in
mean, a
high
little
school
bit
we had
this.
the skinny little like
I know. Oh
and we
my
were really,
God.
really like really pale
Pale.
makeup.
Yeah.
Really pale makeup with like pink cheeks. I look at some of the pictures of me and I'm like, oh boy.
It was that really cakey MAC,
Whatever the
like,
cheapest foundation. I didn't even have very many pimples. I don't know what I was doing. Like I get more zits now than I ever did back then. Um, I just think that like there's a lot of useless shit you learn about like not loving yourself when you're deciding that you're going to put yourself out there. And I think that like I was the first one to tell myself I wasn't enough, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
especially
it
having gone
does.
to arts high school for opera and theater, and like you don't get parts and like you assume why. And like, I don't know if anybody ever really told me the reasons why. I just figured it out.
Yeah.
I think it would have been nice if I just decided not to learn that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Also,
useless. It's
because,
not useful. It doesn't help you. If I just got rid of all that information that I learned back then doing this and like went about my life now, I think it would be better.
absolutely. I think about that a lot. I think you're absolutely correct that we learn behaviors and habits when you grow up doing the performing arts. And a lot of it does not serve you as an adult, as an artist, as just a person trying to survive and have like a tiny blip of self-esteem.
You just make decisions based on how you know the world works instead of letting the world make that decision for you.
Yeah.
It's like you try to beat them to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also like, oh, see, I'm strong. I'm good enough to make it because I can handle the rejection I'm giving myself before other people do it. It's like, no, that's just bullying.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's
we just
just
bully
bullying.
ourselves. We just bully ourselves out of trying. Oh, like nobody ever makes it, so I'm not going to make it. And you're like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
You could be. And also, what is making it? I think that's part of what the show is about, which is what's so cool. It's like, what
Thank
does
you.
that even mean as an artist?
Yeah, I mean, I love Sarah Benincasa. She is a fabulous writer, and her book Real Artists Have Day Jobs was a game changer for me because I used to always think I couldn't call myself an artist unless I was making all of my money in the arts. And it's like, oh, that's such a capitalistic, gross mindset that I
Yeah.
can't believe I held.
But I still do. I mean, like, I don't and I do. Like, it's
Yeah.
one of those things where you're like, I don't hold that mindset, but like, do you not?
Yeah. I mean, to
Right?
be
Like,
fair, like
I
I
still
do
fight
make
that.
money as a singer. Like I have a job that I got hired because I'm a singer, and I still feel weird telling people I'm a singer because now it's like, well, I didn't audition for it and it's not Broadway, so I'm not a singer. And it's like, "Oh, am I going to keep playing that game with every
Forever.
new
Yeah.
achievement?" That sounds horrible.
I mean, I definitely, the first time I got paid to sing, I was like, finally, like, oh, I can finally say I'm a singer. And it was like, oh, wait, I've been,
You went to
what?
opera school.
I went to opera. I mean, it was while I was in opera school. Like, what?
Yeah. And it's not
Like, I sang
useful
for
to.
Sondheim's 70, I was in the choir for Sondheim's 75th birthday at the Hollywood Bowl, but I was like, I'm not really like,
That's bananas, Dara. That doesn't compute.
I shook his hand.
Oh my gosh, and then never washed it
Oh no, I
again
watched it
until
immediately.
20.
We have all heard what that man does. So I, look, I'm going to watch this, but also I don't care what you do.
It
I just will watch.
always makes me sad denies the rumors.
I mean, just enjoy it. Who cares? Like
Yeah, it's like
everybody,
I
I
could
kind of love these rumors about him. And
I
also like, what a fun thing. If I had that kind of money and access, I too would have a fun dungeon.
absolutely. Yes, for those of you at home who may not know what rumor about Stephen Sondheim we are perpetuating and
Rumor,
discussing.
rumor.
The rumor allegedly is that 90-year-old musical theater prodigy Stephen Sondheim allegedly could potentially have what may be construed as a sex dungeon.
How cool.
And I think that's the coolest fucking thing
It
ever.
makes me like him so much more.
Same.
But sure, I mean, no,
But
I get
also,
it.
like, yeah, that generation
They
doesn't
like to
feel how
keep
we
that
feel.
with a shush shush hush hush. But I shook his hand when I was like 16 and it was like a
Oh my
moment.
God. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it was
melt.
great. Angela
But you still
Lansbury.
didn't think you were a singer.
No, because like I mean, I didn't get paid to do it. I was volunteering.
I
I still
mean,
don't consider my like I sing, but I would
yeah.
never like I wouldn't be like, well, I'm a singer. I haven't sung in front of people even in ages.
Wow. Well,
Hmm.
we're going to take you to Marie's Crisis
Yes,
and we're going to sing with a bunch of people. So it'll be low pressure.
fabulous.
It's going to be great.
I'm excited.
I mean, this is kind of this. I swear I ask this question to every guest, but it's really flowing in our conversation. What is a myth that you would like to dispel about working in the arts or being a creative professional?
I mean, I think it's definitely something we've been talking about that you're not selling yourself. I think that's a myth. I think that idea that like you're above capitalism or what you're doing isn't capitalistic, or that you don't need to do that because if you're an artist, you're above that
Mm-hmm.
is completely like it sucks that it's false, but it's false.
Yeah.
Like unfortunately, like if you live in the world, you have to sell yourself. I mean, if you live in the like American centric capitalist society that we live in, where you pay bills and you have to pay taxes and do all the stupid shit we have to do to eat, like you are selling yourself. And that's art is commercial. You have to find a way to be if you want to be alt or different, I think that's awesome. I also think that's commercially viable right now. And that if you think that you're not like, I'm not going to say like taking advantage of a movement, but if you think that you're not like leaning into the fact that this is the time to finally get to be yourself and that has become commercially like commodified in a certain extent, like,
Oh yeah.
it's a huge part of the world that we live in now, and it sucks that it has to be that way, but it's also great because, and it's, bear with me with the great part, but the more people see stuff, the more they're okay with it.
Yep. You
So if
can't hate
you're
someone whose story you know.
and who you love. So like sure, people who are leaning into the fact that it's becoming more and more commercial to get to be yourself, and obviously it's still dangerous in certain like instances and
Yeah.
still scary. Like let's not say that that's not the case, but the fact that it's becoming more and more commercial or more and more sellable
Absolutely.
is a great thing, but it's still sellable.
Yeah,
But like you can do it, sell
absolutely.
it, fuck, be yourself, take
Yeah.
that moment.
And
It's finally time.
get that paycheck. There's no selling out in 2021.
That's what I think I want tattooed on my forehead. Like
Yeah.
there is selling out in 2021. There's definitely jobs that are selling out in 2021 if you
Yeah,
like work at Facebook
like
or like
RuPaul's fracking ranch.
yeah, like there's definitely jobs that you could do like I was about to say like being a cop. There
Yeah.
are in fact ways to sell out in 2021, but like obviously in the confines of people who are probably watching the co-op who are trying to be artists, there is no selling out in 2021 unless you're doing a commercial where you're like cops are great. Fracking
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah, this is not cop culture co-op. That is
No.
not what we
But like
are.
unless you're making commercials for that, I think you're fine. Sell your shampoo. Like
Yeah,
take the paycheck.
we're not handing Pepsis
No.
to
To cops.
to actors dressed
We're
as
not a
cops.
Jenner. We're
No.
not any of the Jenners.
No Jenner.
All terrible.
This is a Jenner free space.
Jenner free zone. And but like I do think it's like there's no selling out as an artist in 2021. Like get that paycheck and like get paid to be yourself. Like that's fucking great.
Yeah.
So like
I
I feel like it started out harsh, but like I got where I was trying to go with it.
yeah. Oh, I was with you 100%. I would never have gotten this haircut or like started presenting the way I have if we weren't having this moment in pop culture where it's like, oh, there are visibly queer, like plus size people booking TV right and left. It's like, oh, I can look like this on camera. Sweet.
Like I
Let's
can
go.
finally be myself on camera, then that means there's a market for that too, which
Yeah.
and it's a market that less people are in.
Yeah. And like, not to be shallow, but like, I don't mind a targeted ad about like a patterned button up or like a good binding sports bra. Like,
That's what
I
I
am
do
a
for a living.
market, sell to me.
Haha, that's what I do for a living.
Hmm.
I work in I mean, but that's the thing too. It's like artists have day jobs.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
like that's not selling out. It's not selling, like that's a
It's
thing I
paying
have to tell
rent.
myself often where I'm like, I work in advertising and I say it like I'm like doing some terrible thing. And it's like, no, I like everybody's selling themselves. If I think that I'm not, I don't sell things that like suck. I mean,
Yeah.
I do in some cases. But like I try not to feel gross. Like I don't feel gross about the stuff I'm selling primarily. Like
Yeah.
I'm not selling like fracking commercials or something.
And you're not
Let's just
telling
leave it to the
like
fracking. I'm not like
laxative tea.
no, I'm not selling like diet like diarrhea tea.
Yeah.
I'm like a person who says really lovely things.
Yeah, like poop. Like poop tea. It's a fun word.
Poop culture co-op.
Poop culture poo op.
I'm an adult. I named this thing. It's a poop culture co-op joke.
Poop culture poo op. And I'm gonna pretend to be an adult for a minute and ask, I think one of your parents might be in the comments.
Oh, it's actually my aunt who's in the
Oh, that's
comments.
your
But my
aunt.
parents are absolutely watching.
Hi, Dara's parents.
They always do. They haven't. I don't think they've missed a stream I've ever done. And I
That's
stream like 3 times
amazing.
a week for almost a year now.
So I want to know, what is it like having grown up with parents who were artistic?
It was awesome. And I'm not just saying that because they're in the comments, because I would absolutely tell them otherwise. I mean, there were times it wasn't awesome. Like there was definitely like financial hardship when I was a kid, and they did a lot of work to try to hide that from us. But my dad was an artist. So, just like any arts, sometimes you don't make money and sometimes you do. I think, that turned around when I was in my like early teens, and it was pretty like stable and comfortable, and it was never with lack of love. They always supported me trying new things. Like that's awesome. Like they were always supportive of like, oh, you want to take 6 dance classes at like we'll sign you up at the community center, or
Yeah.
we'll bust our ass to get you into like the nice dance studio, which I absolutely did with all the other girls that I was with. Like I did the dance studio stuff. Like I was an Olympic track gymnast who went like 4 days a week growing up. Like they
Wow.
found a way to always get me in the classes and let me try stuff I wanted to try. Um, One of the nice things about it was like my dad was a singer. My aunt, who is in the comments, was on Broadway and sings and is still like one of the most amazing singers that I know, and still does like cabarets. And now I want to do cabarets because of her.
Yeah.
What a fun thing.
Absolutely.
Um, but there's this thing where like my dad, I was like the little kid who sang everywhere at like 6 years old. And when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, I like did a performance where I did well. And my dad was like, that was really good.
Wow.
And like, he was not one to say it until I earned it. He wouldn't, and it was a huge deal. And that was like special. But it also meant that like he made me learn how to sight read really early and learn how to sight sing
Good for
because he didn't
you.
know how to read music. And it was a thing that held him back a lot. So when I was of age and was like, I would like to like sing for real, he was like, you are going to take piano and you're going to learn how to sight read. And because like it kept him from commercial opportunities.
Yep.
Like he sang in some commercials, but he's like, if I knew how to sight read, I could have just, that's what I could have done for it. I could have made a living very easily just walking into rooms and singing. He had already had his foot in the door doing some of that. He definitely has a radio commercial we have on tape somewhere, which for heaven's sake, call out Saul Alan Feynman. You can also YouTube him. He's really good. He has a bunch of like some of his music on SoundCloud.
Where can we find your dad on the internet?
You can find him, Saul Feynman. He's on YouTube and SoundCloud. He put some of his Cast of Thousands, which is his band before I was born, which we called Daddy Sings, which I still have all of his songs memorized. He's a beautiful songwriter. Um, and now he's the same as me. Like he doesn't sing either, but like now for like fun, it's fun at like parties. It's a great party trick to do karaoke.
What are
And
your
like,
karaoke songs?
ooh. So it's always Total Eclipse of the Heart.
I
Because you
mean,
can,
yeah.
that's a, it's because it's a perfect karaoke song because A, everybody knows it.
Yep.
So you're not like that jerk who's getting up to sing musical theater at karaoke. Don't do that. I mean, if you're with your musical theater friends at musical theater karaoke, you can sing Wicked.
Right.
Otherwise, no. But it's like it's everybody knows it and can scream along with it, but you can also really show off.
Yes.
And that's like a really hard balance to find. It's
Yeah.
a perfect song. A
And
perfect karaoke song.
uh you may or may not know this, but Total Eclipse of the Heart was written for musical theater.
Mm.
Total Eclipse of the Heart was written for a short-lived musical called Dance of the Vampires.
Wait, I've heard of this musical, but did not realize Total Eclipse of the Heart was written for it.
Yep, it's one of those like famous flops.
We love a famous
We
flop
love a famous flop, but I mean, it's an even more famous
because
breakaway pop hit.
really anything Pat Benatar for
Yes.
exactly the same kinds of reasons.
Yep.
Everybody knows them. Written for a singer. Pat Benatar was an opera singer
Yes,
before
she
she got into
was.
rock.
Her
Everybody,
mom was an opera singer and taught her.
yeah, exactly. So like those are fun songs to like really break out. But I will say Total Eclipse of the Heart is like a first. Uh, then you lean into like Genie in a Bottle.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I mean, I used to do Creep, but now that's like
Creep is a little played out.
now everybody does Creep. Every alto sings Creep.
It's so funny because I think the first time I heard Creep played out in the wild was at an open mic, like in the early 2000s.
I mean, Amanda Palmer is like the reason Creep did what Creep did because she did that cover of it that like
Right.
was thingy and pretty, and everybody's like, wait, the song is actually gorgeous.
Gorgeous. But what's
Gorgeous.
funny is I saw Radiohead play in like I want to say 2006, They don't play
Oh no,
Creep.
they haven't played
They
Creep in years.
haven't
They
played
will
Creep.
not play it.
They refuse.
They famously will not play Creep.
Yeah. Which I don't blame them
I
because,
I will sing. Here's where I will sing Creep. I will sing Creep for work karaoke
oh, that's a
because
good
I
one.
work in the buying and planning part of our advertising. I don't do creative, I do business.
Hmm.
Tattoo lady with the crazy hair and big lips do business advertising. Like negotiate added value and stuff. True story. So when I go to like those events, most of them have never heard it
That's unreal.
because it's like alt, like indie
Which is
music.
so funny because
Like, you're like, everybody's heard Creep.
Radiohead had
Radiohead.
major radio hits.
Yeah, but
That's
not the same rate, but not top 40
bananas.
pop radio.
That's true. I mean,
If you're
Karma
talking about,
Police got up there.
yeah, but
Karma
not
Police was
Creep.
on a
But
now.
Creep has the F word in it, so
That's true. The radio edit, you're so very special.
which is not even kind of as fun.
Oh my
It's
god.
pop version.
Oh my god. Also want to know. I have a couple more questions before we move into our game.
Oh God.
What did you gain from your arts high school experience? And also, did you miss out on anything because you had an arts high school experience?
I was just talking about this because one of my coworkers had an option to go to arts high school, and then her family talked her out of it because they wanted her to have a normal high school experience. And I am so grateful that I didn't. I have to
Yeah.
say, like, I got to be the weirdest weirdo in the weirdo world, and I got to be normal there. Like, I was on the normal side for my school. I made the best friend. Like, like, I went to college. I'm not really friends with most of the people I went to college with still, like maybe one or two, but like, I'm still friends with a slew of people I went to high school with.
That's really
Um,
cool.
yeah. Like Tiana has been on a bunch of stuff, and like she and I met freshman year, and like I have this group of friends that like, it's just nice to get to be your it's a place where it really valued you getting to be yourself above anything else. And I think that's a lesson a lot of us learn in university or like when we're young adults. And I got to learn that when I was already my like my most awkward 14. Like I was an teen L because I used to wear I used to wear like poodle skirts with crinoline and like crazy big glasses and like my hair in like victory curls like my freshman year of high school and like little high heels and like lean in like it was all this idea of being yourself to like the most yourself, which I think is a thing that we learn as we get older. And you watch a lot of people in their 20s struggle with
Yeah.
like, who am I? I can be whoever I want. What is that? I don't like to fit in the mold in high school that is an arts high school is to not fit in the mold as much as you can,
Yeah.
which I guess is also a funny joke now that I'm 32 and have just come out as queer, where like it's not because the option wasn't there.
Yeah.
I was friends with mostly gay and queer people from before high school even, but like in high school, that was very normal and common and fine, and people talked about it, and it wasn't weird, and it was just great. I mean, Phoebe Bridgers went to the same high school as me a few years later. She's younger than
Yep.
me. Like Josh Groban graduated from the high school I went to. Like people who are very much famously themselves. And I think it just gives you that place to try and fail and not feel like, again, you get to be a little ahead of the curve there. And it means that like, sure, everyone has confidence issues with being themselves, but like, I got to play in that space so much earlier.
I love that.
So no regret, no regrets,
No
as the internet would
regrets.
say.
No regrets.
No regrets.
I'm really interested in your answer to this question because I feel like you've seen a lot of sides of multiple creative industries and you've lived a lot of lives. What advice would you give to creatives who are trying to translate their passion into a livelihood?
Ooh, I think we talked a lot about this. So that's a really good question, which is a lot of like, I mean, and I still haven't figured it out. And I think that's the biggest advice is nobody knows what they're doing.
Yep.
And that's the advice is if you walk into a room and realize that not one person knows what they're doing, even the most famous person who's like made it and in their field and you're like, they know what they're doing, does not know what they're doing. They have no idea how they got famous because there's no rhyme or reason. And I don't care if you went to Juilliard and are like the greatest actor in the world. There is some savant somewhere in Timbuktu who did not have access to the same thing that you had access to, who's just as good at you as you and didn't have the opportunities you had. And if you think you're above that, it's wrong.
Yep. There are Meryl Streeps in community theaters all over the
All across.
world right now.
And that's the thing. Like, you think because someone is famous that they're better. But in like most actuality, it's because they've had more access. And I know that's a thing we're talking about a lot now in 2021, which I'm grateful for. But, there's that running joke now, like look at any famous British actor and you can like track back to the fact that they come from a lot, like obscene amounts of money,
Yep.
or how many famous people today are related or the
Children of famous
famous
people.
actors. I mean, even Drew Barrymore, right, is a
Yeah.
Barrymore. A Barrymore. You look, like Maya Hawke went to like is very good, went to the top schools. Is Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's kid?
Yeah.
He's super. That does not negate the fact that she's super talented. A lot of these kids who come from this are still super talented, and no, and that's the thing is like nobody is saying that the people who are making it for being good at their jobs aren't good at their jobs. But if you think that there isn't somebody in Timbuktu or Kalamazoo or Abu Dhabi or, anywhere in the world that is
Yeah.
as talented as you, but hasn't had the same access, like you're wrong.
And it's
And,
okay to be wrong about
and
it
it's
too.
okay. Yeah. I think like, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try and you shouldn't care because sometimes it does happen to people who are like randomly, doing whatever. And that's great. And I also think that in 2021, we have TikTok and we have all these more access to see people. Things are
Yeah.
changing even in small ways because of the internet and because of social media. And I think that if you are someone who's looking to make a livelihood and you are not learning how to use those mediums and take advantage of the fact that you can go viral for like brushing your teeth if you do it right, and then get a signing bonus, and then, you know,
Yeah, and that's your bills
or
get
get really
paid.
good at writing. On how many people have gotten jobs as writers because they're great at Twitter. Like
I
those
mean, I'm
opportunities.
always trying.
I mean, same. Like all I'm saying is that the opportunities are there, and it doesn't mean don't try, but it also doesn't mean that like you have to remember that there's a million people who are good
Yeah.
and
And the arts are
don't
not a
give up. Don't,
meritocracy.
yeah. And it's just how it works. It's not always fair, and that's just it. And that's okay. I mean, it's not okay. We'd love it all to be fair, but just don't think that because they're higher up, that means they're better. And don't let that stop you from entering a room, is I guess what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You think, and
Absolutely.
that's a thing I'm telling myself lately. Oh, well, that person went to Juilliard and Yale for theater, and I haven't sung theater since I was 18 in high school. Do I have the right to want to get back into singing? I haven't sung in over 10 years. Yeah, fuck it. I'm
Yep.
still probably better.
Yeah.
but that's we hold ourselves back. So don't hold yourself back just because.
Also, like, when we get off air, I can give you names of vocal coaches if you want people to work with
I
to get
have
back into the swing of
I
it. Of
came
course
here
you
with
do.
a, I mean, yes, thank you. That is super nice. But I also like moved
Yeah.
here with a singing teacher. Like I just was like, oh, I need to make a living. And then that took over my life. It's crazy how that works.
Yep. Yeah. Whew. Well,
Then you blink and 10 years have gone by, which is the other thing.
absolutely. Speaking of things that happened over a decade ago, you and I were both in performing arts high school environments in Southern California around the same time. We never met at that point, but I'd like to imagine a world in which not only did we meet, but we wound up in the same play and we wound up having a sleepover after the cast party. And at that sleepover, we'd start playing Truth or Dare.
Oh God.
Dara, Truth or Dare.
Oh gosh. Dare, because I feel like this whole thing has been truth.
Okay, I dare you to retell or recreate your most interesting high school performance or audition.
Oh my God. Um, there's so many weird ones.
I love it.
I did opera in high school. Um, yeah, so this is true. I was in La Boheme.
Who were you?
Uh, so I was Alcindoro, which is a man, but we rewrote it as Alice because there was no parts that matched my voice because I have a female tenor, contralto,
I
can get
love
up.
contraltos. That's my
Yeah, I
favorite fa.
you see where I talk.
Yep, yep.
Got that low voice.
Yeah.
Super helpful. And so we wrote my role as Alice. It was cool because we took out a lot of pieces and then everyone got to have jazz songs. We did it at the Gardenia Club in Hollywood. And we all had to learn how to wait tables and we waited very
That's a
much like what
great
you do
skill,
now.
actually.
Yeah. Like what you do now, we were singing waiters. The whole idea of the place was that we were singing waiters at a jazz club. And
That's
we sang a
brilliant.
whole opera, acted out the whole opera in front of our family and friends in character while serving them food.
What did you serve them?
Oh, like it was an actual restaurant. So we like served them the food at the restaurant. They ordered food from us and
Did you
we
get
just
tipped
worked.
out?
We did not. I
That is
mean,
amazing.
yeah, so it was super cool. I mean, the way they killed Mimi instead of like a 45-minute death scene is they had her just run outside and get hit by a car. It was like how she died.
I'm obsessed with
Oh, we did it at the
this.
Gardenia, which is like a small piano club, and then we added a bunch of jazz tunes. And since El Chindoro is like only has a few role like parts, I got like my own song, and I got to sing the 12 Days of Christmas because it was a Christmas themed show. And I
Amazing.
sang "But Not for Me," which is like my song, and
Oh,
that's what I
that's a
did. That was my
great
coolest, weirdest
song.
performance that I ever did. Was singing "But Not for Me" at the Gardenia Club, leaning against a piano while serving my parents food while I was 16.
I am obsessed with every part of this story.
Yeah, my
And
opera teacher was rad. She still is. She lives in Scotland now. I do a good impression of her. I'll do that instead of singing.
oh, give it to
I was
me.
gonna be like, oh, I could sing, but not for me, but I'm not doing that. Sorry, mom. Um, but my Stephanie impression, because she speaks in Mid-Atlantic in real life. Like she is a person. I see her still regularly. Whenever she's in New York, I see her. I talk to her on a regular basis. Like we are still close,
I love that.
but she talks like this. So she'd be like, Maddie, tell me more about musical theater. And she is from Connecticut.
I love it.
And our friend Amanda, I have a fate where Amanda was like going on and on about musical theater. And she's like, and Stephanie was like the diva at the LA Opera for a while, is like friends with like top, is like the real deal. And is also one of the foremost Kurt Weill experts
Oh,
in the world. So we get street
amazing.
scene. We always sing Kurt Weill stuff. Like, who doesn't love a German cabaret?
Who
But
doesn't?
I just remember one time she was like, Amanda, you're a freak. And we were like, this is the best.
That's
I want
iconic.
that on a recording. Amanda, you're a freak.
Oh, that would have been a good impression to put into the theme song for your show, Big Time.
You're
We
a
had to
freak.
big time.
Big time. I
Big
didn't know what was
time.
happening with that. The big time theme song is me and Ashley Atkinson, who's my co-host, just saying big time a bunch of different ways. I just got a text one day being like, can you do like a voice recording of you saying big time like 10 times? And then
Amazing.
like a week later, I get like a song sent to me.
It's very cool.
I'm obsessed with the fact that I have a theme song.
It's very, very cool.
Do
I've
I
been
get to
just.
ask you truth or dare?
You can if you want.
Like,
Sure.
is it like a game of so truth or dare, Maddie?
Dare.
Ooh, I want to dare you the same thing though. I want to hear a story about you and your weirdest audition, having gone to arts high school, your weirdest audition or
Okay.
performance.
So, my most
Yeah.
unhinged audition choice
Mm,
was when I was out of high school, but I was going back to the community I was from to
mm.
audition for a community theater production of Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd is my favorite musical. And it was just this like community theater in Escondido, California.
I know Escondido quite well.
Yeah, we used to call it Escondildo when I was
My brother's
growing up.
ex-girlfriend lived in Escondido.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I was, oh, I think the company was called Arts Off Broadway, was the name of the
Sure.
community theater. And we had to bring in a 32 bar cut and a monologue. And I was 18 and I had already gone to like 1 year of art school and college as well as my like arts high school. And I was like, okay, like I'm not a soprano. I'm not going to go in for Joanna. But if it's community theater and they think I'm fat, maybe I have a chance at the adult women roles if I like just go in and make choices. Because
Oh my God, I love this
I
already.
played Mrs. Lovett in high school and I
Yeah, why
know the
not?
score like the back of my hand. And so I decided, okay, Sweeney Todd is a black comedy. So I decided to start with my song and I sing How Lovely to Be a Woman from Bye Bye Birdie. So they hear that I could sing the high notes of the beggar woman. And then without switching or without telling them what I was doing next, I go right into the monologue where Medea explains why she's going to kill her children.